All right, here we go again with our math cumulative test 20A review. So we were talking about, there's a question about probability. We learned about probability in lesson 50. So if you need to go back to that lesson in your book and read about it a little bit more than what I'm discussing now, that would be a good thing to do. But remember, probability is just you have a better chance of picking the item that we have the most of. So if I have a bag full of marbles and I have 20 black marbles and 10 red marbles and 18 blue marbles, I have the best probability of picking a black marble because I have more black marbles than any other color. Now the next greatest color I have is blue, so I also have right next to black, my very next probable chance, the thing I'm gonna pull out of the bag is most likely a blue, is my second most likely marble color that I'm gonna pick. And then of course my red would be the least likely. So there's a question like that in number 6, but I wanna remind you, before you answer that question, you're actually gonna have to do some math before you answer it. It says, Ty keeps red, white, and blue marbles in his game bag. He has 37 marbles. So it sounds like all the colors, he has 37 altogether. 8 marbles are blue, 12 marbles are white, and the rest are red. You need to figure out how many red marbles he has because you're not gonna be able to answer the question until you know how many he has of each color. So if you know 2 and you don't know 1, and you know the total of a problem, then your missing number, if I know that he has 8 marbles and 12, and I know something else goes right here and it all equals 37, then I'm gonna need to add the 2 numbers I know and take them away from the total to find the difference that fits here. And then I can check my work by adding them all together and making sure that I get 37. So make sure that you do your proper math on that one before you try to answer that probability question. All right, let's see. When they ask us to estimate something, they are not asking for an exact total. So remember that. When they're asking you for an estimation question, you need to estimate before you do your math. So if they say like estimate the price of these DVDs and they were all, there's a question like this on your test. If the DVDs were all $9, you need to round $9 to the nearest tens place before you do your math. If I have 7 DVDs that cost $9, I don't need to do 9 times 7 and then round. I need to round my 9 and then multiply it, and then I will get my estimated cost. So you have a question like that. Make sure you do your rounding to the nearest tens place. In that question, it's to the nearest tens, and then do your multiplication. All right. There were just a couple more that I think we need to talk about. There's a division question that I want you to make sure that you do not do. You could count it on your fingers and you could do it in your head. I want you to show your work like we've been doing, just so that we can continue to be in the habit. And because if you make a mistake, then your mom or dad or your teachers can help you identify kind of where you're making your mistakes in division. So that's number 11. Make sure that you show your work on that division. I wanted to go over the different shapes one more time because there's also a question about a shape. And so you'll find that in lesson, let me see, I have it labeled here. I just need to get to it. There we go. In lesson 67, they talked about the different kinds of polygons. Remember, our polygons are shapes that are closed and flat, and they all have, they're named by their number of sides. So they're a flat shape. They're not a 3-dimensional shape. They don't have an opening like some shapes. They're closed. So like a triangle is a 3-sided polygon. On page 363 of your book, it gives you a list of all the different polygons and it shows you their number of sides. And so like a triangle, like I mentioned, is a 3-sided polygon. And then a Quadrilateral is a 4-sided polygon. I'm trying to get where I can show you that really good. And then a pentagon is a 5-sided polygon. A hexagon is a 6-sided polygon, and an octagon is an 8-sided polygon. So you might want to review this for your test because they show you one of these shapes and they want you to tell the name of it. So you need to look at those and make sure you remember what those shapes are called. All right. And then let's see. We have another question where we have to find the missing addend. And it was just like that one that we just went over, where you have to, where you're talking about the probability of picking a marble out of a bag. And you have a few addends that add up together to equal the total, and in that one you had a number missing. You didn't know one of the colors of marbles. Well, in this question you have a missing addend as well. They give you 3 numbers, and then there's a missing number, and then they give you the sum or the total of the addition question. So you need to set that up the same way you did the marble question. You'll need to add up what you do know, and you'll need to subtract it from your sum to find the difference or the distance from the total that you do know to the total that includes the one you don't know. All right, so with that question, you can also check your work by, once you find the missing addend is labeled in on that one. Once you find in, you can take in and add it to your other numbers and make sure it equals the sum that they give you. And that's a great way to check that one. Let's see, there was one more. Okay, so there's one where we have an order of operations question. And remember that operations are just the different things we do in math: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Those are all called our operations in math. And it's really important to do our operations in the correct order. And this year we talked a little bit about how we order our operations. And the thing that we learned is that you always do your parentheses first. So let's see, I've got this question right here on my math test. And I know that before I solve any other thing, before I do my division, I've got some parentheses around 4 plus 4. So if I remember what Mrs. Johnson is saying right now and what we learned a few lessons ago in math, I always need to do my parentheses first in my problem. So if you will follow the correct order of operations and do that, then you can solve that one correctly. You've got a multiplication that is has dollars and cents, and so I want to remind you that when you set that up, I'm going to do a different one, but if I have $1.25 times 3, I need to be really careful with this problem that I'm lining everything up appropriately. So I put my 3 under my ones because I know that I need to multiply this 3 by each place value starting with the ones. Okay, so I want to see yours set up just like this on your math test. And if I multiply 3 times 5, I know that's 15. So I put my 5 down here, bring the 1 up here. 3 times 2 is 6, but I've got this 1 I can't forget about, so that's 7. And then 3 times 1 is 3. Okay, the other reason I set it up like this is that now I need to bring down all my symbols. So I need to put my dot right there, so I know I have $3.75, and I need to bring down my dollar sign. All right, so 125 times 3 is $3.75. Okay, that's not the same problem that's on your test, but I just want to remind you, I know you know how to do that kind of math very well, but the mistakes often come not in the actual understanding of the problem, but in setting it up in a way where we line things up right and get it correct, and in bringing down our decimal point and our dollar sign correctly. All right, so make sure you do that on problem number 16. And then we have an area question, but we already talked about area when we talked about volume. And then right after our area question on number 18, there's a perimeter question. So remember the difference between perimeter and area when we were figuring our area, and I drew that out for you earlier in this video. If I have, let's say, a rectangle here, And one side of it is 10 feet and the other side of it is 5 feet. For my area, I multiply those two numbers, right? But for my perimeter is asking me the distance around the entire outside of my object. So I need to add up, I don't multiply, but I need to add these, but not just these two numbers. That just tells me my distance if I walked here and stopped. But my perimeter is the whole way around. So now I need to also add the distance here and here. And those are the same, right? 10 feet would come down here and 5 feet. And so I'd add 10 plus 5 plus 10 plus 5, and I'd have my entire perimeter. I just need to make sure and label it correctly with feet. All right, and then the next one, you have another order of operations for number 19 where you need to make sure and do parentheses first. And then your last question on your test is, what is half of 80? And remember that you can use multiplication to solve division. So if you can think what number times 2 equals 80, and that was in lesson 83, if you want to flip to that and look at it before your test. Most of our brains will think of what 80 divided half of 80 is, but you can set it up like a division problem where you can put 2 divided into 80 the way we learned in our long division. 2, 80 divided by 2. Sorry, I think I said 2 divided by 80. 80 divided by 2. You can do it that way. Or you can think of what number times 2 equals 80. Okay, those are the same thing. All right, so that's how you're going to solve number 20. One more thing I want to talk about real quick. I know this is a lot of math to watch today, but I think you'll be better for it and you'll do better on your test if you watch this video and you look at the pages in your book that I've talked about. The last thing I wanted to go over, let me grab it. It's up here somewhere, I promise. Here we go. Is your test day activity that you'll either do today or tomorrow after your test. So I just wanted to look at this with you, and it's got a little pet shop. You can color that if you want and add some pets inside if you have some extra time. It says, oh, you guys are gonna like this because it says it's got lizards for sale. So we can relate to that, right? And they chose 2 lizards, the class. That sounds familiar. The students chose 2 lizards, 1 guinea pig, 2 hamsters, and 6 goldfish. That's like your dream class, right? Where your teacher would let you have all those pets. Use compatible numbers to estimate the total cost of the class pets. All right, don't forget that when we talk about compatible numbers, that they're talking about numbers that are easy to add together. So sometimes compatible numbers are just changing things to counting by like 10s or 20s. But do you remember when we talk about money, compatible numbers, when you talk about dollars and cents, one of the easiest ways to add up numbers is to do it by quarters. So compatible numbers, when we talk about dollars and cents, if you're in a store and you're standing there and a pack of gum costs 23 cents and a toy that you want costs 72 cents, the easiest way for you to estimate and tell your mom real quick how much money that's going to cost and to prove to her that you have the money with you, if you have $1 in your pocket, would be to remember the closest thing to 25 cents with those, because we know that there are 4 quarters or 4 25s in each dollar. 25, 50, 75, $1. So if I'm standing there and a toy is 70, did I say 72 or 73? We'll say the toy is 72 cents. Well, that's awfully close to 75 cents. So I can say, Mom, this toy is about 75 cents. And this pack of gum, maybe it's 22 cents. Well, that's really close to 25 cents. So I can say, Mom, this toy is about 75 cents. And this pack of gum is about 25 cents. And I have $1 with me. I have enough money to buy that. Can I buy those 2 items? And that happens a lot in stores. Prices are not exactly even numbers or quarter, counting by quarter numbers. Things aren't always $1.25 or $1.50 or $1.75. So you've got that here. The prices are kind of not easy numbers to add up in our head. And what they want you to do is they want you to turn them into compatible numbers to do the activity. So just remember that when we're talking about money, some of us got a little confused with compatible numbers. We thought of it as the same thing as rounding, and it's not the same thing as rounding. It's finding a number near it that's easier to add together than the number we're given. And with money, it's usually 25s, going by 25s, when it's dollars and cents. And so that's what this is. So just keep that in mind when you're doing this test day activity. All right, I miss you all so much, and I hope you do great on your test. I know you will. All right, bye-bye.